So welcome to my walkthrough for the Edexcel higher paper. It does have a date on it, but trust me, it is November 2021 and we're doing paper 2, so calcs at the ready. Inequalities to kick off with. First of all, it's an open circle and it's going to the right, so we want bigger because x, yes, some people do say it should point in the same direction. I'm not a big fan of shortcuts like that. At the end of the day, it's saying that x must take values that are bigger, gets the open end, than -1. Open circle, no need for equals to, and that gives us a nudge here that on -3, you need a closed circle. On 4 here, an open, and join them up with or without a ruler, whatever floats your boat. Highest common factor, you've got a calc, you could make lists and so on. I think it's best to practice the technique. Any split, what we've got, 10 sixes, let's say. That gives us 5 prime, 2 prime, 3 prime, 2 prime. And here we get 7 prime, 12. Don't be afraid of a three-way split. It speeds it up. And your highest common factor is multiply the common prime factors. There's a 2 in common, a 3 in common, and another 2 in common. Get them timesed, we get the 12. You could do factor trees for these because they're pretty low and friendly, and you've got a calc if you needed it. I would just sit and make a list because you could 72, because you can just get there 40, 80, 120. You know, pretty easy if I'm honest, that one. Number 3, I've cheated. I'm rubbish with technology. And it saves you 3 minutes of listening to me be rubbish. So Sam's speed for the first 15 minutes. So the distance is 15 minutes or quarter of an hour, and he covers 20 kilometres. If you cover 20 kilometres in a quarter of an hour, you would times by 4 for a full hour, and Sam would end up doing 80 kilometres. As you can see in purple, Sam stops for 10 minutes, so horizontal line for 10. Each little box is 5 minutes, and then for 20 minutes, so we go 20 along. Now, 20 minutes is 1/3 of an hour. So if you're travelling at 75 kilometres per hour, divide it by 3. So the height of this, you do 75 kilometres in 1 hour, you'll do 25 kilometres in 1/3 of an hour, in 20 minutes, in other words. So make sure you have your final coordinate of 10:45 along, 45 up. Number 4, yeah, I've cheated again. Because try and do this with an electronic pen, no chance. Here we do the substitutions. Don't forget, with quadratics, you are always looking for a line of symmetry. So start by substituting in your positive numbers first. Stick in the 1. 1 squared is 1. Take away 2 plus 2. No symmetry yet. Plug in the 2. 2 squared is 4. Take away 4. Disappears. Add 2. We have symmetry. So the 5 can bounce down there, and the 10 can bounce up there. No need to sub them all in. I'm yet to see one where you have to do all the working out. There's always a line of symmetry somewhere, as can be seen on the diagram. So plot your coordinates, and they should create a smooth curve. Do not use a ruler. Estimates of the solution equals to 4. So you need to get that horizontal line on of x equals 4. Sorry, 1. It's been a long day. Apologies. Y equals 4. That's better. And I'm getting the answers, as you can see, of what? 2.7 and negative 0.8. The mark scheme, if I'm to be correct, allows minus 0.65 up to minus 0.8. So mine's a good one, slap banging, not so bad. Oh, I'm at the top end, aren't I? I'm towards one end, but who cares? And it allows 2.6. Ooh, that's just drivel. 2.65 to 2.8. So I'll accept the 2.7, slap bang in the middle. On we go. Number 5. So without wanting to over-explain, it's wanting perimeter, which is going to include the hypotenuse. So before you worry about the second diagram, get using Pythagoras that the hypotenuse is the other two sides squared and added. On your calcs, 12.8-ish. It wants the perimeter of this shape, so it's 8, 8 and 10. That's the easy bit. You've got this line here. That's 12.8. But don't forget you've got this little fella here. How big's that? Well, the base there is 10, making that 2.8. So get on your calc, add all those numbers up, and we're hitting a 41.6 for the right answer. Part 6, to question 6, sorry. Standard trig, couldn't be more obvious, so get it revised. As soon as I see it, get my labels in, work out the length of B to C. I'll stick an X on there. So hypotenuse is not required, so it's an opposite and an adjacent. We are talking TOA. Cover up what you're trying to find. So this, the T and the A are next to each other. It's a times. The adjacent is 12, and T stands for tan of the angle. And don't forget one decimal place. I get 17.8. Same for labels here. But as you can tell, when you want an angle, don't forget it's going to be a shift cos, shift sine, or whatever. Which one? Get labels on. Hypotenuse. Opposite is useless. Adjacent. It's an AH. So it's an inverse cos. It's always a divide. And for sine and cos, it's always the smallest number on top. Or don't forget to use your triangle, particularly for TOA. A over H, 15 over 18. And when you bash that in your calc to one decimal place again, we are scoring 33.6. Question 7. Double-barreled compound measures, density, mass, volume, whatever you want to call it. So, definitely write down your DMV. But then let's look at liquid A. So we are told the density, we're told its volume. To work out mass, you multiply density and volume. So mass of A is 1.8 multiplied by 80. I get 144 grams. Same for B. Get its mass, because we'll get its total mass in a sec. So again, multiplied, but this time it's the 1.2, and it's 120. No, it's not. It's 40. No, it's 40. I was reading ahead. And that gives us 48 grams. So to work out the density of the mixture, it's totals. So we want density this time. So it's total mass divided by total volume. Total mass, add them up, 192. Total volume, given in the question, Your calc will tell you 1.6. Number 8, I always cheat on cumulative frequency and when I'm asked to draw them, but this one's not one of them. Write down one thing. I'm afraid, Brian, it's your groups that are wrong. I've written on my worked examples, worked answers, the first group, because it's cumulative, it requires the data to go from 0 up to 20, not 10 to 20. So he's done nothing wrong with his numbers. He's added them up fine. It's the group labels. And the bottom label should be 0 to 60 and so on. In your own words, but don't fill all 3 lines. When it's only worth 1 mark, just state the second group should be 0 to 20 and so on. Question 9. Work out the IQR. Well, that's slap banging. That's 60, and that's halfway between, so I get the lower quartile as 50. That's 170 there. Each little square, no, it's not, Al. That's 180. Each little square is 4. So my upper quartile, I'm getting as 188. Take them away, I get 138. Let's make a better 8 than that. Becky says 50% of the people waited for at least 2 hours. 2 hours is 120 minutes. Is Becky correct? Absolutely correct, because the median is 2 hours. So you can say anything like the median splits the data into 50% higher, 50% lower, or just say anything along the lines of 50% of the data is above the median, etc., etc. Again, don't feel tempted to fill all 3 lines in. Next, loads of waffle for 1 mark. All right, at the end of the day, as you soak up all that, do a quick comparison. At the end, I would just go with the median is higher. People had to wait longer on Tuesday? Or no, because the average, in this case the median, is higher on Monday. It's 120 on Monday. It's only 100 on Tuesday. And you could compare other things, but again, don't overcomplicate for 1 mark. Not worth your time. Number 10, calcs at the ready. So the key here is they invest the same amount, X. We don't know how much that is. So to work out Sadiq's investment, let's go to Sadiq. We'd need to know his amount, and we would be able to times it. He goes for Country Bank. We'd be able to times it by 1.02 for 2 years and 1.035 for the 3rd year. So if we knew X, we could get cracking. So that's why we need to go to Louise first. So Louise is actually posh reverse percentages because we know her final amount. So her multiplier would have been 1.025 cubed because it's for 3 years. We need to work backwards. That's why it's reverse percentages. So to get X, we divide by 1.025 cubed. And it gives us the reassuringly round answer of 320,000, which means we can get cracking on Sadiq. On your calc, 320 grand times by 1.02 squared multiplied by 1.035, and I'm getting 344,580 pounds 48 pence if I squish it in there without falling off the edge. Number 11. One of those strange ones. All right, it is a little bit strange. Now, the idea always, this comes up quite a lot, when you've got a ratio 2 to 3, as in these things are in proportion, there's also what you can work out is a scale factor. So to go from the number 2 to 3, that's a multiplier of 1.5. Now, what does that mean to coordinates, or in this case, you could do movements as in vectors. I've done it in vector notation on my work solutions. So that means if a movement of 6 to the right would become a movement of 9 to the right, 6 times 1.5 is 9. So you can track on with the idea that to go from P to Q, it is, as I've just said, 6 to the right, and it is 3 higher. And that's P to Q. Now everything is in proportion. 6 to the right times 1.5 would become 9 to the right. 3 up would become 4.5 up. And you can add them values onto the coordinates because your starting point is Q. So horizontally, it starts at 0, moves right 9, and vertically it starts 3 up and goes up another 4.5. And there you go, a weird one. And if you want a different way of going about it, I've done that. I've done it using vectors on my worked answers on the website. Part B, find an equation of the line that is perpendicular. As soon as you see that, work out the gradient of the line. The gradient of the line, vertical is 3, horizontal is 6, has a gradient of 2.5. So the gradient of the perpendicular is the negative reciprocal. We've got -2. Now, on a few of my past papers, I've gone about this, the y equals mx plus c method. Perfectly valid, does work a treat. For the last past paper I did, that was the 2022 summer paper. And for this paper, I'm going to go for it in the y minus y1 equals m into x minus x1 way. Now, we'll be doing a video on y equals mx plus c versus y minus y1. Your choice, though. If you don't want to do y equals mx plus c, you've got the c, and so on in terms of, for the normal, in fact, passes through q. So you've got the c, and so on. So that's a little idea of where it is, but let's go for this. So we've got y minus the y coordinate, which is 3, equals -2, x minus 0, leave it alone. So we can rearrange, multiply out those brackets, -2x, and as discussed, it crosses at +3. Now, because you knew the intercept, y equals mx plus c was probably a better technique, but as long as you get the right answer, who cares? Number 12. These are extremely popular. Any two brackets will do to begin with. So x times 3x, -2 times +2, and the x terms is -6x plus 2x minus 4x. So I like to do sight or loops for the first part, but because there's 6 sums for the second part, keep it safe, stick with the grid. Everything on the top needs timesing by 2x, so 6x cubed minus 8x squared minus 8x. On the bottom, treble everything, 9x squared minus 12x minus 12, and simplify for your answer. 6x cubed is the only cubed term, Squared, got 9 of them, take away 8 of them, so we're in credit 1 of them. Both negatives, so we're in bigger debt, so it's minus 20x. And numbers, there's only one of those terms. So there we go for the, I think, a nice 3 marks. Just take your time, don't rush them. Number 13, don't know why they bother with these. Too easy, too waffly. 1 teacher, 1 girl, and 1 boy chosen to represent the school. There's 16 teachers, 120 girls, 100 boys. Just times them. Don't get it. All the work you've got to do for question 12 for 3 marks. That's all you've got to do. For 2 marks, they're a joke, them questions. Permutations, combinations, they are a joke. Number 14. Now I've written all the reasons out in full on my work solution. So again, cheap plug, check them out. I'll just read through them on here because electronic pen and me, I'll take forever. So first of all, it's this ratio thing. The size of angle BCD must be trebled to get BAD. BAD. Well, whatever that is, that's treble it. And hold on, the angle at A and the angle at C, they are indeed a cyclic quadrilateral. Opposite angles add up to 180, so 4x. And we divide by 4, x is 45. So we know this angle, we know that angle, 105, 45 if we need it. What else have we got? Well, angles in a triangle make 180. So we know that's 20. We know that's 105. Take those away from 180. That angle is 25. Now, let's just change the colour. Difficult because it's kind of upside down, but let's spot, because we haven't used this tangent and this triangle. Because here's the thing, we do have a cyclic quadrilateral. And I've drawn it badly, but in a cyclic quadrilateral, the angle there, SBE, in other words, the one you're trying to find, is equal to not the angle on, but it's the angle over round here. So it's a difficult one to spot, it really is. But due to a cyclic quadrilateral, alternate segment theorem, got that wrong, sorry. Due to the alternate segment theorem, SBA is 25. As I say, I've talked through it there. I have written it out, I hope perfectly, on my worked answers on my website. Number 15, as bog standard, a sine rule, cosine rule situation as you can want. So which one is it? We do not know an angle and its opposite side, so it is indeed a cosine rule question. And unusually, the labels are correct. Normally, I would suggest you ignore the labels and put your own ABC on there. This is one of those rare situations where they are fine, so just crack on. A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2 times 88 cos 72. You get 130-ish. Obviously that's too big for 8 because we haven't square rooted. 3 sig figs, 11.4. Part B, again, as bog standard as you can want. Formula for the area of a non-right angled triangle is a half times the sine of the angle multiplied by the sides either side. That's 41.846, or in other words, to 3 sig figs, 41.8. So for number 16, do not get put off. I've had students before who just hate the look of the terminology. Don't worry, just get into your head, doesn't matter. To get the next term, you substitute in the current term. So when it says start, I'll not write the answers down here. When it says start with the first value of 2, it means to get the next value, stick 2 in to this equation, which will give you 10 minus 4. So on your calc, stick in the cube root of 6. Now the key to it is you should be using your ANS button on your calc. So when you type it back in, don't clear your screen, write it out to 4 or 5 decimal places. That's for down here, not up here. Write your down, but use the ANS button. That's what it's there for. If you don't know how to use it, have a quick look. I've not done a video on it, but I'm sure someone somewhere has. And it allows you just to press equals. You could go to X5, X6 dead easily. You will need to do that for some A-level questions, doing 4 or 5 iterations of formulas. So do get used to using the ANS button ASAP. But let's do it the old-fashioned way. So when you get the cube root of 6, you get 1.81712, etc., etc. So 1.81712 just goes back into the formula. The answer I get for that is 1.8533, and so on. Well, to get the third term, it's the cube root, of 10 minus 2 lots of my most recent nonsense. And that would give you, what does it give me? 1.846 with a 2-6 on the end. And there we go. So don't get put off by them. I think they're gold mines because it's just using a calculator and rounding off. What more do you want for 3 marks? So part B, it's the reverse. They sometimes get you to rearrange a formula. This is actually in reverse. So if you've got, now, there's not a lot of room down here. If you've got this formula, which is ignore the rubbish notation, x equals the cube root of 10 minus 2x. It's rarely saying get this and put it back into that form. In other words, cube both sides. And now you rearrange it to equal 0. So add 2x to both sides, minus 10. Now, if you didn't know that, you probably could have guessed them. You might have got a plus and a minus wrong way, but that's more secure, guarantees. So A is 2 and B is minus 10. Number 17, good old histogram, and it's drawn for us, so no need to muck around. So the key to it all is frequency means area. So work out the area. On my worked answers, I call them A, B, C, and D. Do whatever you want. The fact is, this first rectangle is a width of 5, height of 0.8. It's got an area of 4. The second one, width of 10, height of 1.6, area of 16. Third rectangle, width of 10, height of 2.2, 22. Final one, width of 15, height of 1.2, area of 18, which means it says at the beginning, some people. We now know that it's 60 people. Well, 20% of them, in other words, let's get rid of that. 20% is 12 people. It's a fifth. So we need to work out, where did the top 12 people fit in? Well, look, they've given you a nice little... This one's 18. If you chopped it into thirds, you'd estimate there's 6 people in each block. So where do 12 people fit in? Top 2 blocks. So where's your cut-off score? Bosh, 30. All right, doesn't look very friendly. Not so bad once you get your teeth into it. So for number 18, you know me, I'm going to cheat a bit. Hopefully you got yourself a ruler and you drew on your horizontal line. Now I think it's a bit weird how it says all 4 solutions, because technically there's infinity solutions. You could just keep adding 360, but hey, we'll go with it. So when you put your 0.6 line in, read off your numbers. Now be careful, it's tempting to think that's 45. It's not. All right, that's 60 there, and that's 30. So, you've got 45 in the middle. So what you got there, 40 or so, 38 maybe. Well, the mark scheme says we're allowed 35 to 40, and we're allowed 140 to 145. All right, on my other one, I got, think, 38 to, and so on. 38 and 140, something like that. But to get the next solutions, they're over there. So the sine curve repeats every 360. So to get the next 2 answers, whatever number you get here, add 360. And whatever number you get here, add 360. Whoops. Okay. Part B, it's got to squeeze it in. Let's not forget, if you've got a graph of y equals x squared, the graph of y equals minus x squared, that's minus all of x squared, not replacing it, it flips it upside down. So stick the minus. In other words, multiply the entire function by -1. All right, the minus, for a reflection in the y-axis, the minus goes here, but not for this. And as you can see for part C, we've cheated. The idea is, if you replace x with x minus 2, again, the y equals x squared graph looks like that. Y equals x plus 2 squared goes left 2. Sorry, that's right. Y equals x plus 2 squared goes left 2. Y equals x minus 2 squared goes right 2. So you need to move the graph, all the key points, move them right 2, and join them up. Kind of a botch on that explanation. Hope it made sense. Number 19, it's all about the area, volume, and so on, scale factor. Don't forget, if you have a linear scale factor, if your linear scale factor is 2, the area would be 2 times 2. In other words, you square it. The volume would be 2 times 2 times 2. So a volume scale factor would be a scale factor of 8 if your linear scale factor is 2, and vice versa. So the key here is finding the linear scale factor. So we're wanting to go from A to B. So as you can see, that's 127 to 20 to 27. But that's got a scale factor that's cubed. the scale factor, well, the easy way of writing it is, it's 27. Why do I keep writing? Sorry, people. Deliberate mistake, obviously. 125 there. X cubed, you do the number you want divided by the number you had. Now, if you cube root that, you get a nice looking fraction of 3/5. So when you consider the linear scale factor, even a nightmare, of A, B, and C, if A is worth 1, B is worth 3/5 of 1. And don't forget, using 1's a good number because it's all in proportion. You could use 50 there if you wanted and go for that. It would all cancel out or scale up, but I'm going to go with 1. Because as you can see here, B to C, radius is linear, that's why we went for it. 1 to 2, which means you double it. 6/5. We've linked them all. All right, so work out the ratio of surface area of A to C. So when you go from linear to surface area, you need to square things. So 1 squared, 3/5 squared, and 6/5 squared. So to go, if we link A and C as we're asked to, when A is worth 1, C is worth 36/25, which is acceptable, but to make it look neater, times both sides by 25. And there we go. Hope that made sense. Bit of a doozy, that one. Number 20, we have a village and we have some probabilities and we've got to do some thinking. It's quite one with lots of complex things. So work out an estimate that it will rain on Wednesday. So let's look at Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. We are only interested in rain on Wednesday. So what could happen on Monday, Tuesday? Well, it could go rain, 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 not rain, not rain, rain, not rain, not rain. And Wednesday. So they are the 4 possibilities. Now you can't just work one out and multiply them by 4 because they are dependent on what's happened the day before. So the values do change. So you've got to puzzle it through one step at a time. So rain on the first day is 0.7. And not rain is 0.3. So when it's rained on the first day, these become 0.8 and 0.2. But these become 0.6 and 0.4. Finally, what's the probability of rain? Now, when it's rained on the previous day, it's 0.8. If it's not, it's 0.6. So obviously, you've got a lot of sticking into your calculator and adding. Stick some brackets in, do it all in one go. I get 0.748. Number 21. So as soon as you see lower and upper bounds, get writing down some spiel. So 52, the upper and lower Now to 3 sig figs is 1 decimal place, or in other words, nearest 10 pence. So you go up by 5 pence and down by 5 pence. I know it's not pence, but I'm just using something that your brain is pretty good at working out. Same with T. We've got 1.45 and 3 sig figs, so that's nearest penny. So we need to go up and down by half a penny, or in other words, 0.005. And 1.445, and that's L and T. Now, weirdly, it's one of those that's asked you to do a bit of rearranging, because work out the upper and lower for G. The formula does not say G equals. Okay, that's the bit. So we need to go back up here. Let's square both sides. T squared equals 2 pi times by L over G. Let's times both sides by 9. Sorry, I heard 9. I'm having a nightmare. Let's times both sides by G and divide both sides by T squared. So G will equal 2 pi L over T squared. Now we can actually make a start of the calculations. If you want the upper bound of G, you want the largest possible value on the top. So the largest value of L is 52.05. And you want to be dividing by the smallest number possible, so you pick the lower bound of T. Don't forget it's squared. If you stick that in your calc, you get 984.3677, and so on. As you can see, it says 3 sig figs, pi is given to 4 sig figs, so 3 or 4 is fine. I've got nearest whole number, which is 3 sig figs. I went for 984. Let's do lower bound, which means you want to pick the smallest number for the numerator, and you want to get the smallest number by dividing by the largest possible number, 1.455 squared. Again, stick it in your calc. Your value of G should be coming out at 969. Point a whole lot of nonsense. I rounded to 969. Gotta say, not a bad paper early on. Real sort of thinking questions at the end. So I hope that's helped, and I'll see you on the next one.